song and brighten my day. Who'd have believed that you were part of the dream? Now it all seems like years away.
What is happening, people? Welcome back to the Scarfey Talks Premier League podcast. And tonight I am joined by a fantastic panel, which I'll introduce in just a second. It's a double Premier League game week, the first of the season. We'll be reviewing game week 13 and looking ahead to game week 14, which runs from Tuesday to Thursday, so get underway tonight. Let's introduce your panel then. Let's bring them all on, all at once. So we've got Lewis, who's a West Ham fan. We've got also Joseph, who's a Spurs fan, and also got a wonderful Mark back on as an Arsenal fan. So let's introduce them all. Lewis, firstly, how are you doing? You keeping well? Lewis, can you hear me? Don't know whether he can. Joseph, you keeping well?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you, Harry. Yeah, I'm doing all right. Obviously, kind of come in emergency to get in onto the pod today. But no, I mean, obviously a difficult week to be a Spurs fan. And I'm not looking forward too much to tonight. But yeah, we will see how we go. Looking forward to reviewing these Premier League games. You know, some big games over the weekend and some big games coming up this week. So, and yeah, the first double game week really of the year. Quite exciting. Getting into the winter months, we're going to see a lot more Premier League football. So yeah, really looking forward to it all. And yeah, hopefully we have some good games, especially tonight. You know, we don't usually have a good game away at Newcastle. It's been a difficult place for us to go, St James's Park. But who knows? New game. We've got to see how we do.
Absolutely that. Thank you. And Joseph is representing Tottenham tonight as a Spurs fan. Thank you, Joseph, for your time. And we go across North London, technically. Thank you very much for coming on once again. Mate, how are you doing? Firstly, of course, from the Ashburton Grove podcast. So, introduce yourself and talk to people a little bit about the new podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Harry. Yeah, I'm doing well, mate. I'm doing really well. Just been a hectic day all round. So apologies to everyone watching. It is absolutely 100% my fault that we're late tonight. It's nothing to do with Harry. It's nothing to do with Joseph. It is 100% on me. So apologies for that. The Ashburton Grove, yeah, it's a new podcast that's just launched, Harry. Arsenal content. We are positive Arsenal fans, and we do have a lot to be positive about this season. So yeah, it's just launching. We've got some great guests coming on. We've got another two amazing guys that do most of the work behind the scenes and actually on the podcast rather than just me. Sean and Brian, who are absolutely brilliant, and I get to come on and speak to Spurs fans. So it's great. Like, life could not be better, Harry. Apart from I'm not picking up any awards for best content, but I'm sure that'll happen one day.
Absolutely will, yeah. No, thank you very much for your time. Of course, Mark, you being an Arsenal fan, and it's all again just the second week running. It's been an all London derby panel. So there we go, interesting stuff. And Lewis, I hope you sorted out everything there. So second time lucky rather than third. How are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, all sorted now. I don't know what happened there, technical issue, but. Yep, everything's good. Looking forward to talk about the games and what we got coming up for next week as well.
No worries, thank you. Should be a good one. If you're new, please like and subscribe if you are, and get involved as well if you're listening live, because very interested to hear your thoughts. And let us know what club you support and how you're feeling right now supporting your club. But let's get into it then and dissect the games last weekend, which was game week 13. Let's review it. Let's start with Brentford and Burnley then, because it ended 3-1 Brentford. Joseph, I'll kick it off with you. In your opinion, do you think it's a deserved Brentford win? You look at the stats, you look at the scoreline and the performance too. It just felt like Brentford were on top, but for so long, maybe not, getting the goals in the game that they deserved until right at the end.
Yeah, I mean, Brentford have been a professional outfit. I think a lot of questions were kind of raised, obviously, when Thomas Frank went, obviously, and Burmo left. You had some key players kind of leave Brentford and key figures in the Brentford hierarchy leave. And I think with Keith Andrews coming in, people were kind of wondering, is this going to be a year where they struggle? But they've shown that they can do exactly what they did under Thomas Frank again without him. So, again, one of those games where they were struggling to get in and get a goal, but they were kind of dominant overall. Obviously, Burnley, obviously a newly promoted side, they are struggling somewhat. We can see that under Scott Parker. And I think overall, Brentford did deserve the win. Again, it took them a while to get their goals. Obviously, Igor Thiago kind of coming in with a brace towards the end of the game. It seems like he's doing really well. He's adjusted, obviously came in last year and got that injury that kept him out for most of the season last year. But he seems to have acclimatised to the Premier League. And Brentford keep on doing it. They lose their key players. They've done it so many times, and new players seem to come in and replace them quite seamlessly. We've seen it with Ivan Toney in the past. I mean, even Ollie Watkins, if you look really far back, Ollie Watkins leaving, and then Ivan Toney, then Burmo, Visser, and now Igor Thiago's kind of come in and filled their boots and doing it in a really good way. So Brentford, a well-deserved win. Again, Burnley still struggling. It does feel like they are one of those kind of relegation candidates. We don't probably expect them to be staying up, but if they want to, these are the type of games where they do need to try and get some kind of points. So it is what it is for Burnley, but Brentford keep on moving forward, and they're always going to be a tough game. I know, obviously, Spurs will have them on the weekend. Thomas Frank against his old club. Obviously, I know it's not this week, but next weekend we're going to be facing them, and obviously Arsenal are facing them tomorrow night, I think. So yeah, it's always a tough game against Brentford. You never know really what you're going to get. So but a good result for them on the weekend to get those 3 points. Can't hear you, Harry, mate.
Can't hear you.
Carry on. Thank you. Mute button was jammed for some reason. So we got there in the end. Thank you, Joseph. I promise you I was listening. Stupid button was jammed. Thank you. Lewis, I'll come to you. I mean, I want to speak about what Joseph mentioned there in terms of these are games that Burnley have to win or get some kind of result out of, even if it be a point, isn't it? When they want to stay up. And no disrespect to Brentford, they're a decent side, doing well under Keith Andrews, but it probably not. This could come back to haunt me. Probably not going to get, I don't know, anything above kind of mid-table absolute best. So Burnley may look back at this and be kicking themselves. Would that be fair to say?
I think it could be fair to say they've now lost their last 4. So, they went on a streak of where they won back-to-back, crucial 6 points they picked up, but then they've lost 4 in a row, and I think they've got Palace upcoming this weekend and then Newcastle that follows. It's one of those where it feels like maybe considering the circumstances of the game, maybe they didn't expect to get a win, but when they got that equaliser to make it 1-1, it's really... It's the sign of a relegation team when you score in one end and less than 60 seconds later, the ball's in the back of the net in your own goal. And that killed them off. They have to learn how to, if they manage to get themselves back in the game, which they did for a penalty, they have to learn to take advantage of that and pick up that point and try and take that motivation, if they would have got the point, into the next game. And you build up confidence and hopefully, achieve results.
No, it's a good point you make. Absolutely, yeah.
I think the other thing that hurts them a bit as well is obviously in the Championship, we all know Burnley had that significant and really impressive defensive record that they set. They haven't really translated that to the Premier League so far. But the one thing they did in this game is they did limit Brentford to not too many chances. They were kind of keeping it close. And then obviously they end up conceding 3 goals in the span of around 10 minutes. When you're kind of staying in games as Burnley, they struggle to do that in general. you kind of got it to the end of the game and you're 0-0, obviously then 1-1, you're thinking, okay, just get over the line, at least get a point. But they end up conceding 3 goals. I mean, that's not something they're going to be happy with, especially because, again, in the Championship, they were so good defensively. To allow those goals from a Brentford side that, let's be honest, they're not free-flowing, scoring goals here, there and everywhere. It has kind of come from, one man recently. And it's definitely something that they'll be kicking themselves on, because there's definitely in some games you could say, yeah, fine, Burnley didn't really have a chance in this one. But in this game, they easily could have even got 3 points and they really threw it away.
That'd be totally fair to say. Joseph, thank you again for adding that. Mark, I'll come to you before we move on to our next game. I mean, Burnley pulled it back to 1-1 and they were only ahead for a minute. This is something that's been mentioned already. Lewis mentioned. I mean, that is poor, isn't it, to not hold on to your lead for any more than 60 seconds?
Yeah, it is really, really poor, Harry. And like Scott would be absolutely raging at the team for that. However, do you know what? Brentford are really, for me, they're almost like that Brighton team of a couple of seasons ago that lost all their players, as in Caicedo, etc. Lose Potter as well, and they still just stay on a level. Just a really well-run club that just keeps moving. And I think Brentford are, like, as Joseph said perfectly, they are like doing the exact same thing at the moment. You lose an amazing manager, and I hate to say it because he really is, and Thomas Frank, an absolute amazing manager, and you can still perform. See, for Burnley, I think that there could be a shock with Burnley. I think we would all agree here now that Wales are relegated. But I think there could be a shock with Burnley. They are actually really, really good at home. And as long as they keep picking up points at home, I think that's like the most important thing. So I'm going to kind of disagree with the guys a bit. Arsenal went to Burnley and they were really, really difficult to play at home. They just don't travel well. And that is a downfall. Yes, they should be picking up like the odd point where they can. And they will be disappointed when you're conceding within a minute. I mean, I think schoolbook tells everybody in football, as soon as you score a goal, concentrate and do not concede straight away. And unfortunately, that happened to them. So for me, Harry, I honestly think that Burnley might actually shock us by the end of the season and actually stay up. If they do, they'll just stay up. But I think they may shock us a bit.
Okay. Bold prediction then. You think Burnley could shock us? There we go. And that moves us on nicely and on a dramatic point to the next game then. And we go to the Stadium of Light. I mean, this was a cracking game. There's 4 goals in the previous one between Brentford and Burnley. There's one more with 5 in this game. And just to give some context, Bournemouth flew into a 2-0 lead in 15 minutes. And Sunderland in the end, like I said, they're winning 3-2. But I'll come back to you, Lewis. I mean, literally, probably, I think it'd be fair to say, it was the dream start for Bournemouth. We all know that Sunderland have been very good at home. They've started the campaign well in their return to the Premier League. But to go to the Stadium Light and be 2-0 up inside 15 minutes, I mean, it's what Areola probably, would have been dreaming of the night before.
No, I've got to agree. I think they had a really, really good start. We saw the game before against West Ham. They went 2-0 down. And this time they flipped the stick and they went 2-0 up. So I remember seeing the game and I thought Tyler Adams, what a goal. That was a fantastic finish to give them the lead, and they lost concentration. They got too comfortable, and when you're away from home and you get too comfortable, a bit like what happened with West Ham a week ago, you slip up, and they made a mistake. And those mistakes after having such a good start is one of those things we were just saying you can't really afford it to happen. This one in the more higher scale, they've been trying to push for a European spot, maybe a Conference League spot under Iraola. So it's one of those points that Bournemouth can't really slip up on. They can't afford to slip up on it. And I think they will, even though Sunderland have been a really, really tough team this year, I think Bournemouth Bournemouth will look at that as a missed opportunity.
Totally agree with that. I think you're spot on with that. Thank you. Joseph, I'll come to you. I mean, it is an amazing comeback, isn't it, for Sunderland? They've seen some dramatic scenes at the stadium of like late goals, comebacks, but this is going to be one that, we stick with them to be 2-0 down. And, there was opportunities that Bournemouth had to make it 3-0 at times, but to come away with a 3-2 win, I think that really sums up maybe where Sunderland are right now in terms of never give up, working for each other. So that'll mean a lot, won't it, to Sunderland, and huge comeback.
Yeah, I mean, they really have made the Stadium of Light a fortress. And, I don't actually know what exactly their record is, but have they even lost one? Maybe, have they even lost one at the Stadium of Light at home this year? It's been, if not, it hasn't been many.
Not sure, might be 1-0.
But that's how impressive they've been. And we haven't seen that for a long time from a newly promoted side. But you look at their side and it is impressive. Granit Xhaka in there. They've got Brian Brobby obviously coming off the bench and getting the goal to put them ahead. They have some resilience, and that they're playing really good football. I don't think anyone can question that Sunderland are going to be staying up, but we're also going to be possibly around that mid-table mark, which again is something we haven't seen for a while from a newly promoted side. So again, I reiterate what Louis said. I think Bournemouth will be kicking themselves, especially after that West Ham game. They were 2-0 down. They ended up catching up into that game, and they let Sunderland do the same thing to them. I think from a top six point of view, when you're looking at Iraola and you're looking at Bournemouth, I think the hype on him has died down a little bit. I don't think he's been as impressive recently. And I guess you have to kind of have the caveat they have lost a lot of key players. It does feel like Semenyo, there's a lot of news about him possibly leaving in January. So I don't think Bournemouth are going to be this team that challenges going forward. But again, still a competitive outfit, still a team that's going to ruffle some feathers here and there. But again, Sunderland could also be that. They could become that in this Premier League, because they clearly have the fan base, the size of the club is massive. And if they have the right backing, if they keep on improving and growing from the position they put themselves in, there's no reason why they can't kind of establish themselves properly in the Premier League once again.
Joseph, thank you very much for that. Big up as well to the goal gaffer in the comments, who says Sunderland haven't lost at home, only away to Burnley and Man United. That's interesting. Tell you what, I'll make a bold prediction. Sunderland at home, I think there's a huge possibility they could stay unbeaten all year. And I don't think they'll lose any more than one at home. For me, it'd be a case of, it's just one defeat, is it 0 defeats? So I do recognise it's a little bit bold. Mark, what do you make of what I've just said there? Do you see it's a possibility that Sunderland could be unbeaten at home the whole of the season?
I think it'd be a massive task for them to do it, but Arsenal went there, and although that we're not in an absolute fifth gear at this moment in time, we found it very, very difficult, and they're a very physical side, a really physical side. And if you look into I'm using Arsenal as a benchmark, but if you look at Arsenal, we've only drawn 2 games and lost 1 this season, and we batter teams, and we went up to Sunderland and they found a way to get a point off of us, and they made it very difficult. Before that game, I think we had conceded 3 goals and they scored 2 against us. So for me, Harry, I think they're absolutely stonewalled to stay up. I think the main question is it too much to ask that they could jump into one of the European spots? And that for me is like a legitimate question. I actually think they will finish top 10 this season. I watched this game for the first 40 minutes or first half an hour, and it would have been half an hour because the Sunderland scored on 30 minutes, so it was just before they scored. And I watched it, and I actually thought Bournemouth were worthy of the 2-0 lead. And I thought it was game done. I couldn't believe that I was watching Sunderland concede goals like that, and Bournemouth were good. It was a good game. It was a good game to watch. But yeah, they're Do you know what? There's a possibility they will go, Harry, to answer your question. They will go like a whole season without losing at home. But it is a massive ask.
Absolutely. Can they do it? That's the question. That's for me is a key part in what they want to achieve this year. But tell you what, another quick question on Sunderland, and then they've gone a couple more bits on this game. Are they safe already? Is a question that's being asked a lot. And, you know, I get why the question's being asked, but at the same time, we know that they've lost every game from now to the end of the year, then it's a different story. But it's unrealistic. It's not going to happen, let's be honest. But Lewis, I'll give the question to you. Are Sunderland already safe in your eyes? I know we look at it not mathematically, but do you ever see a situation where it just collapses and they will even just find themselves above the drop and in a little bit of a kind of scrap or worry towards the end?
I think they'll be completely fine, to put that question very simply. If you look at, they've got 22 points already. And if we look at what the Premier League has recently been saying for years in the past, everyone always says that 40 points is the magic number. But realistically, in the past, how many teams have actually needed to get 40 points in order to stay up? So I do think that they're probably already safe. Judging how many points they'll get off the back of this season, I reckon they'll be completely fine already, which is incredible to say, but they're doing so well. I think even if they had a fall off during AFCON, they're going to be losing 7 players. I think they'll be completely fine.
Harry, do you know what's funny? Sorry, and object on that. Do you know what's funny? And it was just with the 40-point mark, and you're absolutely right, Lewis. But see, last season, see if Burnley, Sunderland, and Leeds had came up, there would have been 2 Premiership clubs in serious trouble. Tottenham and Man United would never have got away with it if these 3 teams had came up last season. And I think that you're absolutely right. I think this year you will need 100% 40 points to stay up, because I think the teams that have came up this year it's the first time that we've seen it in years and years, where the gap is not so big. But last year it was horrendously bad, and the points total for Man United last year, did they even hit 40? I don't think it did it?
Oh, I'll bring it up. I won't be able to get up straight away. But, I think you make a really good point, Mark. That you just get Joseph's thoughts as a fellow Spurs fan, such as myself. But
sorry, I'm not having a dig at Spurs at all.
No.
It's just like I'm not having a dig.
No, you make a good
point. Maybe slightly.
I'm all right. We won a European trophy last year.
Charity trophy. Don't get me started on that charity trophy.
Okay, Mark. Fair question then. When was your last European trophy?
We've won the Cup Winners' Cup, but you guys have won a trophy that no Champions League side dropped into the Europa League, meaning two of the worst Premier League sides contested the final. Man United and Tottenham in a year, both of you should have been relegated if there was any competition for relegation.
You've been in the Europa League in the past 5 and 6 years, and you've got knocked out of it. So,
if I was in the Europa League right now, I'd be sacking Arteta, and I'd be flying a plane over the Emirates, get the cronkies out. It is disgusting, nothing to be proud of. But be Spurs, that's Spurs for you. This chat's the way to go for me. I'm not even going to look at the comments.
I would, you know what, Mark? Part of me, I don't, the Europa League wasn't as good, but we've won it. I mean, you haven't won it. I don't feel like you can say how terrible it is if you haven't won it. So
no, it's tongue in cheek, mate. But the standard dropped. That was the sad point of it, because you look at the Champions League teams coming in. Bodo Glimt in the semi-final, mate. Come on, that's like Chesterfield in the semi-final of the Carabao Cup.
They're in the Champions League. Arsenal fans' common line was Tottenham won't play Frankfurt and Bodo Glimt in the Champions League, and we're playing both, and they're both in the Champions League. So.
Yeah, but how well are they doing in the Champions League? What's the standard? Come on, Harry.
When you lost in the Europa League, you lost to teams like Sporting, you lost to teams like, it's not like you were losing to these Real Madrid's, Atletico Madrid, like all in the top. You lost to teams that were Europa League teams.
No, I get that,
Yeah.
but even the worst Arsenal sides in this new format would go on to win that.
Well, this isn't
That
the best Tottenham
competition.
side. This isn't the best Tottenham side we've ever seen.
No,
And we still won it.
100% it's not. 100% it's not. I absolutely.
I'm going to
agree.
celebrate it. It's a European trophy.
Yeah, listen, I would sell if Arsenal were at that stage. I would be
I'm
celebrating
not
it
going to
too.
tell Lewis he couldn't celebrate the Conference League. That was great for West Ham, but
Definitely.
it's great for Spurs. I'm going to celebrate winning Europa League. We've got one another European trophy. One thing Arsenal haven't been able to do.
Do you know what, mate? You're probably a couple of months away from never being able to say that again. But guess what? I'll be the real one. I'll be the real one.
This is the difference, right? Tottenham do the talking on the pitch, whereas Arsenal fans do it before and they throw it away. You've got bigger fish to fry, and it all comes, flying back down to reality come May. So, I've had a bad feeling this one's different, but go to get your head of yourself. It's not over yet. You couldn't beat 10-man Chelsea, so which we will discuss.
We will discuss that. We will discuss that.
We will discuss that. Yeah, don't worry. Lastly, on the Sunderland-Bournemouth game, then, because this was an interesting one. I mean, Lewis, I want to ask you about Bournemouth's form. Again, I don't like to look too much into it because overall it's still probably a decent start. But I didn't realise that it's not catastrophic. That's important to say. But if we look at the last 5, for Bournemouth, it's 2 defeats, 2 wins, and a draw. It's not awful, but it's not what they were achieving at the start of the year. There's more defeats in there, more fragile, let's say, defensively. So do you concern for Bournemouth that it might start to go downhill a little bit?
It potentially could. It obviously depends on, if we look at the upcoming fixtures, they've got Everton, Chelsea, and then I think that's followed by Manchester United. They do have a rough set of fixtures, and they've either been too far out of the game or too far in the game. So, for example, against Sunderland, they took an early lead. Against West Ham, they went 2-0 down, and against Villa, they struggled absolutely. It was just a bad day at the office against Villa, and against City, they also had a torrid time. They've got Everton upcoming, and they really need to get a result out of that because otherwise they'll be in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think you're spot on. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Let's move on then to our next game, which again had 5 goals in. It was definitely entertainment in this Premier League game. It just gone. Man City and Leeds in 3-2. And a lot of people are like, I'm going to triple captain Haaland. Those that play FPL, fancy football, were like, Man City going to wipe the floor with Leeds. Well, no, that is not what happened with City just winning by a single goal in the end. And they needed added time to get the job done, which is interesting. Joseph, let's start with Leeds United. Are there positives to take out of it? The fact that maybe they held their own and they didn't get turned over?
Yeah, definitely. I think the scoreline does flatter Leeds in a sense. Obviously, they were unlucky, as well, kind of drawing the game level and then conceding in the last minute. But I would say Man City were the better side. But this is the problem with Manchester City. This is the one thing I guess I am scared of when you look at the title race. Obviously, it looks like Arsenal are probably the most consistent side. And the one thing you can say with Manchester City is they aren't consistent. And even when they do play well, they can't seem to always get it over the line. This should be really a routine win, and it really wasn't. And it was almost 2 points dropped if it wasn't for Phil Foden. But yeah, I think Leeds can be, it was nice to see Dominic Calvert-Lewin finally get a goal. It feels like it's been a long time coming for him. And yeah, I think Leeds, they battled, they competed. Again, City should have probably been more than, they should have had more goals throughout the game. They had many chances to score. They just couldn't seem to get the ball in the net all the time. But again, City looked very leaky at the back. That's one thing that is clearly been an issue for the last couple of years. Their defence has not matched up with what their attack can be. And Leeds capitalised on that. So a close game. I think the deserved winners were Manchester City. But this is the problem. If they want to sustain a real title attack, if they want to try and compete with Arsenal, they need to be more consistent. And there's too many games where they're close like this, where they're not picking up points. We've seen it in the last couple of weeks. So, City will be happy to escape with the 3 points. But they need to be more consistent. They need to be taking those chances, and they need to get better at the back because currently they do not look solid enough to win the Premier League.
Totally agree with that. And that was my next point, actually, about City defensively. So, Joseph, and thank you for mentioning that. Mark, I'm going to bring you in on this one because not only did City concede 2 goals at home to Leeds, but it's the manner in which they conceded. An individual error for the first one where they were punished, and the second one, a penalty given away. I mean, I like Joseph Guardiola. I think he's a great defender, whether it be left back or centre back, but that's close to a rugby tackle there, and it's a really poor tackle. So, City implode defensively. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, 100%. And Joseph had just summed up absolutely brilliantly, and it would have been everything that I would have said. They are so inconsistent. I think Pep made 10 changes for the Champions League game, so you can't even blame the players for not being fresh. And I was on the Thursday night show last week, Harry, and I predicted that City would wipe the 4-way leads and it'd be a 5-0. I honestly thought that when Foden scores within a minute, you're kind of thinking that's it, the floodgates are going to open and that's it. And for Leeds to come back, and I don't think Leeds are another team like Burnley. They don't travel well, in my opinion. I don't think they'll pick up too many points. City were extremely lucky for as far as I'm concerned. Very, very lucky, and they are very inconsistent in defence. And I just don't agree with Joseph. I don't think that they have enough to actually trouble Arsenal for the week. I really don't. I'm not saying that because I'm an Arsenal fan. If Liverpool were top of the league just now, I'd be saying it for Liverpool. But they are so inconsistent. I don't even think Pep knows his best defence, if I'm being honest. And that's kind of worrying because we're 13 games into the Premier League season. You kind of start to get a feeling of what you would like to do by this stage. And I actually don't even think that Pep knows that, mate, to be honest. So, yeah, it's a massive, massive weakness for them.
It's a weird one, really, because we saw Pep kind of, I guess he's revolutionised football in different senses, but he kind of one season, wasn't it? He had the 4 kind of centre backs play across the back 4. And this season, they've got 2 centre backs and they've pretty much got 2 wingers at fullback in terms of Nico O'Reilly and Matheus Nunes, 2 midfielders, not really defenders. And you can see that players can get in behind them so easily. It just really confuses me, how he's setting the team up. And I agree, with Mark, it doesn't feel like he knows how to set this team up properly, because if it's me, if I'm the manager of Manchester City, I'm not starting with Nico O'Reilly, a young kid who's shown promise, but obviously not the finished article, and Matheus Nunes, a converted centre midfielder into a right back. They would not be my starting fullbacks if you want to go and win the title. You need something more solid there. You need something that you can trust. And we've seen that kind of back 4 in terms of kind of those wing backs too many times this season. And it's led to them conceding a lot of goals. So I agree with Mark. I don't think City are going to be consistent enough to kind of push on and try and challenge Arsenal. The only thing I would say is we've seen it in other seasons where City do always start slow and they get much better throughout. And then they won one season, didn't they? They pretty much won the last 15 games almost. And so maybe something like that could happen again. But it's wishful thinking when you look at City at the moment. You don't see it happening with the Premier League being as competitive as it is.
I 100% agree. And Joseph, that season that City done that, they won the league from Arsenal by a couple of points. I think it was 2 points, and Arsenal actually went on an amazing run themselves. We won 15, drew 1 game, which was with City, and we lost to Villa, and we still lost the league. So City are capable of doing a madness and going on. But I honestly see watching them at the Emirates this season. It was no disrespect to anybody, but it was honestly like watching Southampton and Arsenal at the Emirates last season, where they just went into the ugliest low block you could possibly do. Man City have never done that against Arsenal, but this season they did. So do you know what I would, Harry? I would actually think that I could see 2 ways with City this season: either a massive drop off coming their way, or as Joseph said, they could maybe Pep could galvanise them, and this madness will happen. They are always strong finishers to a Premier League season, but it just at this moment in time, it just seems very, very unlikely, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I agree with that myself. Before we move on from this game, Lewis, I'm not trying to be like the celebration police here, but again, I've seen this question being asked. I personally don't like it myself, but it's not about me this, but I want to ask about Foden's celebrations, the winning goal. Some people look at it and go, "Oh, it's just over the top." But for you, is it justified? Is it over the top? What do you reckon?
I think it's football, and I think it's a winning goal. And I think if you score a winning goal in a game that you think is going to be a winner, because at the time it's scored in, you can celebrate it. No one should say how you should or shouldn't celebrate. I know, even if I was a City fan, if we scored a last-minute winner, just because it's against Leeds, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to celebrate because we should have beat them anyway. You're going to celebrate in the stand like you scored a last-minute winner because you have. I don't think there's anything wrong with celebration. The Premier League is tough this year. It's a tough Premier League, and even though I know Wolves are doing badly, but they are, at the end of the day, each team is a Premier League side for a reason, and if you score a last-minute winner, you should celebrate it how you wish. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
No, not do I. People look at things to moan about. I just think more than anything, it's football, passion, let it go. I get it sometimes. Like if you're getting booked for taking your shirt off, I understand it, a little bit more, maybe the frustration because yellow cards add up. But something like that, if he's not going to get booked for, he's just celebrating, move on. So what have you. But next game then, Everton, Newcastle. Newcastle won 4-1. Mark, I'll come back to you. Would you agree that you didn't see this coming on paper before? Some would have been bold and said, look, I back Newcastle to get a win away, but did you really see them winning 4-1 beforehand?
Sorry, I do apologise. I'm getting calls coming in. No, not at all. I think that, like Newcastle, again, the Premier League's been really difficult this season. Teams are very inconsistent right across the cards. I had Everton to at least get a point out of this, and it wasn't even close, mate. So I just did not see this coming at all, Harry. Like Newcastle are probably starting to gel with just the new signings and getting over these arcs and stuff like that. And they are still a really, really top team. I'm sure we'll speak about that with Spurs shortly, but they are a really, really good team. But they have not been travelling well at all, and I just didn't see it, mate. I really, really just did not see this coming whatsoever. And especially if you look at Everton, what they did to Man United with 10 men. That was the craziest thing. Again, it's just teams are madness at this moment in time. You're getting some performances that are just out of this world, and then they just pull up. Honestly, I'm stopping betting. That's all I'll say. I don't massively bet, but my coupons are stopping because there's so many teams just doing an absolute madness at this moment in time. So yeah, I did not see it coming, mate, at all. Not even the slightest.
I think you bet on Arsenal the previous 2 seasons to win the title, and it didn't go to plan for you. So
Harry, don't. No, honestly, don't. I'm almost homeless, mate. I'm not. It's not. It's always well in control, but just this season's just been crazy. Everton have had 2 absolutely hidings at home this season. One from Tottenham and one from Newcastle. And previous to the Tottenham game, I think they'd won every game. There wasn't even a draw there, and they were very, very difficult. And then you watch them travelling to Man United and win 1-0 by a wonder goal, by the way. That was absolutely top draw with 10 men. And you're thinking, do you know what? I expect Everton to get something out of this. And lo and behold, it's like the scoreline says it all, Harry. It's a very, very comfortable win for Newcastle.
Absolutely that. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate you giving your thoughts there. Lewis, I'll come to you. What do you make of this game from an Everton point of view? That's quite, I'm sure, damaging at home. They would have fancied their chances maybe before the game.
Yeah, I think so. I think what we saw on Saturday was exactly in my eyes, a David Moyes performance. He does well under pressure when it's 0-0. We saw against Man United, down to 10 men, instantly changed the defence up, nicked a goal, managed to get 3 points. But against Newcastle, they went down extremely early, just a minute in, and they had no answer. They were clueless in how to respond, and they struggled. And Newcastle just kept piling that pressure, and that looming statistic of Newcastle not having won an away game for, I think it was almost half a year or something obscene, was going to be broken eventually. And I think Newcastle really did need to break that, because sometimes as a fan, when you hear a stat like that, you just lose all your confidence before the game, and it's almost soul destroying. But if they want to kick on and fight for this, they are down in 13th at the moment. They've had a rough start, but we've already said before it's very close. But if they want to get back into that top 4 position, they need to be winning their away games like they did then, and they need to be winning them in quite dominant fashion.
Certainly do. Thank you, Lewis. And I'll come to you, Joseph. On Newcastle, do you think they turned a corner? Potentially, because I asked this because I know they lose against Marseille, but I thought they played well. Moment of madness from Nick Pope, and it does go downhill. But apart from that, they beat City and they win this game. Do you think they look quite strong? I mean, we'll get into it, but they play our club Tottenham tonight, which is concerning, but they look okay.
Well, I don't think they need to be strong to beat Tottenham at the moment anyway, but yeah, they do look like they are kind of finding their feet after a rough start. Again, that was their first away win of the season. I mean, that stat sounded crazy, what Lewis said, in terms of half a year, take them half a year to win a game away. But they have been, a bit, there's been some inconsistent performers, I would say. I really like Eddie Howe. I think he's a top manager. I think he's done so well to get Newcastle to where they are. But, obviously, off the back of losing Isaac, a big kind of, a big saga that went on for too long. And obviously now with Voltemada, and Anthony Gordon hasn't performed very well so far this year. They've had some inconsistent players, some inconsistent performances. It does feel like they're finding a little bit of consistency now. Harvey Barnes has been really good in the last couple of weeks for Newcastle. I imagine he'll end up starting tonight. And I think, Newcastle can be positive looking forward. I mean, when they're fully fit, they've got a solid starting 11 and they've got a solid squad. I think Livramento and Lewis Hall are both excellent. And you've got one of the best midfields that can fight along any other Premier League midfield, in terms of Bruno Guimaraes, Joe Linton and Tonali. So, they are finding their feet. Again, very shocked at Everton. I don't think anyone expected them to kind of get rolled over like they did. And as much as Newcastle were good, Everton were really poor in this game. They really struggled to get anything going. They couldn't really get anything going up front. They couldn't get the ball working through midfield very well. So a surprising game, a surprising result, but Newcastle finally kind of off the mark in terms of away wins, and I think they'll be looking for another win tonight. But like Lewis said, I mean, the league is so tight. They are in 13th, but I think it must be a couple of points really off of the European spots. So yeah, I mean, it's all okay for Newcastle. They're in every competition. Well, they're competing in the competitions in terms of the Champions League and the Premier League. So I think they'll steady the ship. And with Eddie Howe at the helm, I couldn't imagine a better manager for him, to be honest. I think he's really going to take them to heights. So, I think for Newcastle, they'll be okay. And Everton, just inconsistency. But again, they don't look like they're going to be a relegation candidate, which they have for the last couple of years. So I think they'll be content after this move to the Hill Dickinson Stadium. But yeah, it's strange. It felt like they kind of were creating a bit of a fortress at the start of the season, which has very quickly been dented by Tottenham and by Newcastle. And again, it's one of those teams you don't really know what you're going to get from them. They have quality. We've seen it in Dewsbury Hall, in Grealish, in Iliman Ndiaye. We see it in a lot of their players. But you get a performance like this and you start wondering, where did it come from?
You do, absolutely. I think you summed it up perfectly. Newcastle turned a corner. Thank you, Joseph. Lewis, for you, Malik Chow, how good of a signing has he been? Because he got a brace in this game.
He's been really, really good. To be honest with you, when I saw him at the beginning of the season, he played his first few games, I thought he wasn't very good. And I thought that, maybe Newcastle had, they had tried to get so many players during the summer and only a few deals, transpired and end up happening. I thought he was, wasn't too good to start off with, maybe a bit nervous, but he's really settled in to the Premier League surroundings very quickly, a lot quicker than some other defenders. And he's been a key, a key signing for them. I remember a lot of Newcastle fans really wanted a centre-back in the summer because of all the injuries that Botman keeps suffering or one of their other players keeps suffering. And they really needed that staple defender, persistently good for them in their squad. And I think Malik Chow is that player for them.
100%. I think it's been a really good signing. Thank you for that. Let's move on to a game that I didn't want to discuss, but it has to be discussed, and that is actually my club, Tottenham. We lost 2-1 at home to Fulham, which was rather catastrophic. We're going to have to go to you, Joseph, of course, first, being the Spurs fan. Tottenham, woeful, would it be fair to say? And you're kind of limping, kind of a little bit of fight in the second half, but nowhere near enough, too little, too late.
I don't know what you mean, mate. I'm a Juve fan, so yeah. But no, I mean it was a pitiful performance from Tottenham. I mean, obviously, I was on the podcast, the podcast after the game, kind of talking about just how poor it was. Well, sorry, actually, I was on the podcast before the game, talking about how desperately we needed a response from the week we'd had, obviously losing to Arsenal, losing to PSG. And we just didn't see any of it. We didn't see a team that looked hungry to win. We had an awful start to the game with, the first goal. I would say it was a little bit unlucky, a couple kind of mishit passes and mishit shots and deflections. But the Vicario mistake was dreadful, really. And it was really poor to see that none of the Tottenham defenders actually tried to cover him. I'm surprised no one kind of ran back onto the line to try and, in case there was a shot whilst Vicario made that mistake. But yeah, after that, we just struggled to really get anything going, didn't create too many chances, struggling to kind of, just get any kind of attacking football going. No link up play, nothing up front. Obviously, Kudus does score a nice goal, a good finish. But even after that moment, you're kind of thinking, all right, Tottenham, let's go on and kick on and try and get the second. And that very quickly diminished into a game of 20 minutes of Tottenham having no idea what to do and how to break down Fulham. So yeah, really disappointing. Obviously, probably not a conversation for this podcast, but I am questioning Frank now. I don't think he's at the moment. I don't feel like he's the right guy to take us forward. I haven't seen enough from him in these in this, since he's come in. I haven't seen any player improve. I haven't seen really any very good performances either. When I try and think about it, I'm trying to think of a performance where I'm proud of how we played and we really fought and we played really well. Can't think of many, if any. And it doesn't feel like the players are playing for him. There's just not a good energy around Tottenham right now. And I can't see it getting any better in the near future. So, yeah, just a dreadful game from a Tottenham point of view. From Fulham's point of view, I mean, it wasn't even like Fulham played well. They got 2 quite lucky goals at the start of the game and then just kind of shut up shop because they knew Tottenham don't have the attacking power to kind of break them down and score goals. So, just a dreadful game and from a Tottenham point of view. And, yeah, Fulham, they've been very inconsistent this season, obviously in 15th place, but so it's hard to really say much about Fulham in this game because you wouldn't say you actually saw a lot from them. You didn't really see much. They scored 2 very lucky goals and then kind of it was all Tottenham just doing nothing. So yeah, it's hard. It's a hard game for a Tottenham, and it's getting a bit toxic. I mean, we're seeing it at the stadium. The booing of Vicario, I really disagree with. I kind of do agree with what Frank said on that, but then again, Frank coming out and being that damning is poor from a manager. He shouldn't be so. He should understand the situation that Tottenham fans are in, where you're spending a lot of money, some of the most in the Premier League, most in Europe, to go and see these games, and you're getting served up that. It's really poor. But I don't agree with booing individual players. Again, I agree with booing a team that's underperforming. Fair enough at halftime, at full time, but during the game, it's not going to do Vicario any good hearing people booing him when he's So, yeah, there's so much we could talk about with Tottenham. I'll leave it there because I'll end up going on more of a rant. But yeah, just a tough game, tough pill to swallow from a Tottenham point of view. And again, you're hoping for a reaction, but we're at St James's Park, which has been a very difficult place for Tottenham to go in years past. So we'll have to see what that brings.
Exactly, we'll have to see. Lewis, can I come to you and get you to speak about your big roles here, potentially in Tottenham? But what do you think the situation looks like for them in terms of Thomas Frank? I tell you what, I'll ask you about Frank. What do you think Tottenham should do? Should we give him more time? Should they jump to conclusion on him and make a decision? Because it hasn't been the perfect start, but we're only 13 Premier League games in.
We are only 13 Premier League games in, but the problem we have is because this league is so competitive and because fans over time become more and more vocal on opinions as social media grows and players hear things and whatnot, it could become very toxic very quickly. And we need as a perspective of Spurs, it's more about controlling the ship to see if it boils over, because there's two sides. Do you want to give more time and see what he can do, or is it let's throw the towel in after 13 games? I think I remember saying this. I really wouldn't want to be quoted off this, but I remember speaking to one of my friends, and he was saying under Ange last season, Spurs were in a better position at this moment in time compared to how Frank's done with the team. And a lot of people after, I can't remember how many games, maybe a handful of games, were crediting Frank and saying how brilliant he was. And only a handful of games later, it's doubting over his future. So I think that it would be slightly silly to sack him now. I understand that Spurs want to push on and be in Europe and don't want to be in a dogfight down in below the top 10. But I think with Frank, it is about time. He made Brentford the team that they are. And I know a lot of people will use that in the arguments, and it took them years to do so. And some people might say he did nothing impressive there. But I think time is the answer in this situation. But monitoring it, you just monitor the situation.
I think for me, as a Spurs fan, watching Tottenham week in, week out, I understand calling for time. And it has been something that I have also said to many other Spurs fans who are obviously very frustrated. And football has become so reactionary, like you said. I mean, people are very reactionary. They want immediate results. And I understand it has been a short amount of time. I think the problem I've got with Frank right now is I haven't seen anything to hold my hat on and go, this is getting better. You could say maybe the defense has been a bit better, but even then, it hasn't been impressive. I mean, we conceded 11 goals in the last 3 games. And let's be honest, against Arsenal, I'm sure you watched that, Mark. I said this on the podcast before the Fulham game. Tottenham were really poor defensively. For the first 30 minutes, we shut you out. But then we just looked so open. You had so many chances. And again, good finishes by Eze, by all means. But they came from a similar position. And again, against PSG, we really struggled defensively, and we can see 2 goals in 6 minutes against Fulham. It's not good enough. And when we're seeing the drop off in the attack that we've seen, it's awful. How we play going forward has been dreadful this season. And for me, as a Tottenham fan, watching us play under Frank, I don't see things to hold on to go, this is improving. Let's keep going. For me personally, I just don't see it. I don't see what he's bringing to the team. I don't even think he's sure what he's doing. He doesn't know what to play. He doesn't know what system to play. He doesn't have an identity right now. It's just really hard to find something to cling on to. So I don't know. I wouldn't be... Go on.
Yeah, to me, I'm going to take my Arsenal glasses off here, right? And just speak as a football fan and not really kick in at Tottenham at all. One of the best managers in the world managed Tottenham and Conte. I love Conte, right? And he came out and he said, it's always the manager's fault. It's never anyone else's fault. It's always the manager's fault. And I think that message should be tattooed or spray painted across the Tottenham Stadium at this moment in time. because I actually think that I spoke about Brentford and I mentioned Brighton, and I could also mention Palace and that. These teams could lose managers, their top players, and they could still produce a certain level. Tottenham are like the absolute opposite to that. And I'm not saying this as an Arsenal fan, I'm just like what I see looking in. They're the absolute opposite to that. I would say Tottenham are probably where Arsenal were in 2019.
Yeah.
We thought we had the best team in the world. We had your Ozils, Aubameyangs, etc. However, Arteta had to come in and absolutely almost rip it apart, chuck it all out the window, and then start the rebuild. And it's only years on now that we're seeing the fruits of that, what's actually happened. And I'm actually wondering if it's the same at Tottenham, that like this at Tottenham maybe needs to happen. I'm not saying that they're all bad apples in your dressing room and stuff, but there's certainly something going on at that football club. There's great players going into that football club, and you're seeing nothing of them. And I think there's also a sign for me within a football club. Something I always look at within my own football club is if you have zero coming out of your academy and actually coming in, it kind of tells me the mentality of the first team is not right. Because if you've got a good mentality in the first team, if that makes sense, you're putting the discipline down, you're showing exactly the standards that need to be set. You seem to get a higher players coming through your academy. I don't think Tottenham's got that at this moment in time. And I think the root cause of this is deeper. And for a team like Tottenham, and yeah, you are our main rivals, it's not good enough. You have one of the best stadiums in the world. You have a massive fan base. You have got like all the infrastructure to do really, really well. Why is it not happening? And that for me cannot come down to manager after manager after manager. That has to come something a bit more core inside the club. So sorry guys, I really didn't mean to jump in.
No,
but
I completely understand it, Mark. And you're right. I think everyone knows that Tottenham are in the ownership. There's been a massive thing, and obviously Daniel Levy's just gone. We're in a bit of a transition period with Vinay and Johan Langer kind of being the ones who are kind of controlling things at the moment. And obviously we've now got the Lewis family kind of taking a bit more of a front in terms of kind of leading Tottenham forward financially. But it's tough. It's tough to know where Tottenham are going. It does feel like the beginning of a rebuild. But the one thing you said about Brentford and Brighton and always kind of doing well, and I think this is kind of it. Maybe it's too soon to say, but we're seeing a set piece coach come in at Brentford and do pretty much what Thomas Frank is doing. I know it's quite early to say that, but Keith Andrews had no credentials coming into that job, and he's come in and he's steadied the ship, and they look fine. Brentford, they look the same. They don't look any worse than they did. Thomas Frank, for me, he's come into a big job, a job that he hasn't had before, and I don't think he is reaching the level that he needs to at the moment. Now, I'm not saying he needs to go immediately, but I just think if we don't see an upturn in some kind of form, if we don't see some kind of consistency in the way that we play, in attacking patterns, some kind of integration of some of these new players as well. The fact that Xavi Simons isn't starting is a joke to me. I don't understand it. And we need to see I need to see something from him that shows me that he is going to be able to progress and move this team forward. Because I'm sure for you, Mark, obviously when Arteta first started, there was a lot of calls, a lot of Arsenal fans wanted him gone. But for me, when I watched Arsenal, yes, they weren't great, but you saw those flickers, you saw those sparks of where this team could go. That's what I saw anyway when I was watching Arsenal in that time. You still saw the moments where you're like, he looks like a really good player. Like he can really, it looks like there's something building. Yes, it's at the roots, but it's building, it's growing. I haven't seen that from Tottenham at all yet. I haven't seen anything growing.
No, you're absolutely right, and that was the case. And I was on a podcast today with a massive guest, and and we were having a chat about that. Within a fan base, there's like 3 sections of fans that you could have. Either the far left ones, where no matter what the manager does, you want rid of them.
Yeah.
Regardless, you could win like 5-0 against Arsenal, and you still want to get rid of them. Then you get the ones that are maybe balanced in the middle, and then you get the ones far right that think the manager's great. And I'm certainly, as an Arsenal fan, I'm like far right with Arteta. I want him in, and I think that he's done an amazing job. But I kind of saw what he tried to do by ripping the club apart and like changing it.
Yeah.
He came in, he was very transparent of his plans, and the bare minimum he expected. And he told everyone at the club, he told the fans, the players, and it all came together. It all started to come together. And for us, without speaking about Arsenal, but we've always seemed to be like a year in front. And this year looks like it could be the year. To get back to Tottenham, I just think that you could change Frank and bring another manager in, but then is it going to change? Like, is it really, what manager in the world, if Pep Guardiola leaves City at the end of the season and you bring Pep into Tottenham, will this change? I don't think it does. I just
And
think
that's fair enough.
I think the
get,
paper
Mark,
never track.
Yeah.
And a club like Tottenham could rebuild again and be absolutely massive. Tottenham are capable of going for a Premier League title. You're that big. You're capable of going for a Premier League title. You've been to Champions League finals. Something is rotten at the core. And the last manager that you had that I would say was anything successful was Poch. And we have never seen that Tottenham come back again at all. It has not been there. It's been very inconsistent since Poch left. So it's every manager to blame for what's happening at Spurs at this moment in time.
No, definitely not. But the one thing I would say is I think 2 things can be right. I think you're right in terms of, at the top, there is a massive issue. And I think every Tottenham fan acknowledges that. But at some point, you can't. I mean, we've wanted the Lewis family out for years. We wanted Daniel Levy out for years. Daniel Levy's finally gone. Maybe we do need to give them a chance to see if they can rectify or improve. I think that's what we've been talking about, isn't it, Harry? We're kind of looking at what are they going to do in this January window? What are they going to do in the summer? Are they going to finally put their money where their mouth is? Because that's what they're claiming they're going to do. That's what they're saying they want to do. We need to now see that. They kind of pinned all of Tottenham's failures on Levy. They kind of did at the end because when they sacked him, that's what they did. So it's their time now to prove us otherwise. If they don't, fair enough. Like, I think every Tottenham fan is still wanting the Lewis family gone. But the point is, I think 2 things can be right. I think the Lewis family can definitely not be the right owners for Tottenham, but also I can think the manager might not be the right fit for Tottenham as well. Now, again, I'm willing to, wait and be patient and see hopefully some things improve. But I need to see something from Frank because so far, personally, I just haven't seen enough to see us progressing in the right direction. Because, yes, this team is not perfect. There's a lot of players that aren't great, but they could be better than how we are performing.
Okay, thank you very much. And before we move on to, because you spent a while on this game, I want to very briefly talk about Fulham because they got the win. Lewis, I want to ask you, what do you make of the Fulham performance? Because you all know that I think they've struggled at the start of the season and come into this away from home, really poor, haven't won the season away from home. Now that's changed. I mean, it literally was a case of Spurs awful at home, Fulham awful away. Dr. Tottenham, something had to give. And, typical Tottenham, as Josie says there. But Fulham, it was a mighty performance. As much as I want to moan and rant about my club Spurs, we were awful in this game, you've also got to look at it and go, Fulham, they turned up with a good game plan and delivered it.
They did. They got 2 early goals and they made the most of them. They defended very well for the rest of the game and they got 6 points from 2 games, which is what they really needed. Because I sat here 2 weeks ago and said that Fulham were in quite a bit of trouble. And it did look like that because on paper, obviously football's not played on it, but on paper, it didn't seem like they were going to beat Sunderland or Spurs. And as time's passed, they have. They've got, those are 6 crucial points for them. If you take those 6 points away, they would have been 11, which is equal to West Ham and Leeds. So it goes to show how important that game was for them. And I think they just did really well, and that confidence they probably got from Sunderland probably was able to help them in the early stages of Spurs. I know they shut up shop pretty quickly after getting 2 goals, but in a situation like that, that's exactly what they planned to do, and it's what they executed, and it worked.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Next game then, Palace and United. We ended 2-1 United. Joseph, did this surprise you? Because it did because I was working and I found out the score after. We've got to a point now where Palace have been so good under Glasner, and United have been so awful and inconsistent under different managers that we really expect Palace to win this game, and they didn't.
Yeah, I guess in a sense. I mean, Manchester United, they looked like they were turning a corner and then had that horrific game at home against Everton. And going into this game, I think a lot of people would have put Palace down to win at home. They have been performing okay this season, and Glasner's got quite a steady ship. But the one thing I would say, the X factor, is Bruno Fernandes. I think he's still unbelievable. I think he doesn't get enough credit. He doesn't get the credit he deserves. I think people always look at him as this annoying kind of crybaby a lot of the time, which, to be fair, I can as well. I don't like his attitude, but in terms of his actual quality as a footballer, it is undeniable. So we saw him kind of take a hold of that game after going 1-0 down and get 2 assists to get them back in. Obviously, Mason Mount's finish, maybe not much of an assist, but still, to recognise, to make that angle, I'm sure was partly down to Bruno Fernandes and obviously maybe what they've worked on the training pitch. And Mount executed very well. And, United, again, it is inconsistent, but they are in a good position in the Premier League. They, as much as it hasn't been, you would say, a successful season so far, they're in and around it. They're going to be fighting for European football. And, it is about consistency. I've been one to call for Amorim out for United. I didn't really believe in what he's creating, and I think a lot of people didn't as well. Maybe he is slowly starting to get something going. It's probably a bit too soon to tell. But, when you've got the players they've got available to them, they have got some quality footballers. And if in Mbeumo, Cunha, Bruno Fernandes, Sesko, you can get some results when you've got those players on the pitch. So a good result for United, and they'll be looking to build on that. But again, you just never know what you're going to get with them.
You don't. Thank you. Lewis, I'll come to you before we progress. Glasner made some, I would say, worrying comments after the game about, he's like, oh, look, I've stayed silent till now, but the reality is we didn't do enough in the summer. It's not good enough. We win a trophy, play 2 games a week. Basically saying that the squad is struggling to cope. Because Palace haven't won, I think this is right, haven't won a game when they play, after they played Thursday in Europe. That speaks volumes about the depth. So what do you make of what Glasner said? Because it's brutal honesty.
I completely agree with Glasner in this scenario. I have, I guess fortunately, been understanding of what it's like to understand about going into European football with a squad that simply isn't big enough. It is crucial. I cannot tell you how important it is to be when in the European competitions, to have a big squad is absolutely vital. And when I saw Palace's business, I thought, all right, they've won the cup. That's brilliant for them. They're going to get European football. And I thought, regardless of which European football got, because, of all the stuff at Nottingham Forest, they still needed a big squad. It doesn't matter. And actually, in the Conference League compared to the Europa League, you play more games in the conference. And I was just looking at it and I thought, this transfer window they've had is very lackluster. And I think Glasner kept that quite quiet for a while. But he can't hold it in anymore. And I think it's completely fair to say it sounds like he was promised a lot of players and those promises didn't deliver. And I can imagine that come deadline day with the whole Gahey scenario, I presume Glasner had quite a big effect on that and probably said something along the lines of, I might walk if you sell him, because they were, rinsed off Eze. They didn't bring in much player in terms of quality, just bodies in, even if they weren't good players, just to have, to alternate positions with. So I think they will be really struggling and they'll be feeling it in full effect, especially come, around this period now where there's more European games as well as the heavy Premier League games, Carabao Cup, FA Cup's coming up soon. It will be very, very tough for Palace with the squad that they've got, and I highly suspect them to do a lot of business come January.
Totally agree with you. Thank you. I think you're spot on with that. I mean, I do agree with this comment, from Pruncy. He says, to be fair, Glasson sounds like a man who will definitely leave Palace this season. I personally think he's spot on. Mark, I don't ask you about the game, but United in general, how do you view them and the job that Ruben Amorim's doing at the moment? Because, they have I think, quite a poor defeat at home against Everton. We just think, is there much confidence the rest of the season? Have they restored that confidence with going and getting a win here where they probably weren't expected to?
Yeah, 100%. Harry, I would never have thought in a million years that United could go to Palace. And Palace are doing, unbelievable. They're really punching high. And I would never have thought that in a million years. And you're maybe just starting to see a slight turn with United. And going back to what I was saying about Spurs, I think that there was a number of the issue at United is deeper than just the playing squad, because they've spent multi-millions, let's face it, on Sancho's, Antonio, Anthony, etc. They've spent a lot of money and not getting anything out of it. So, but it just seems that they're giving the manager time, and I think that he's getting rid of the bad apples in the dressing room, etc. And you're maybe starting to see a bit of a direction. I mean, they came for a couple of Arsenal youngsters, academy players that Arsenal actually tried to keep hold of. There was two of them that we tried to keep hold of, and Man United grabbed them. So there is some kind of direction with United, which may take a few years. But I think that clubs are going to have to go in this kind of direction to rebuild. And again, that's what I'm saying about Spurs as well. Man United were in the exact same position as Tottenham last year, but you're just starting to see that they're giving their manager time. He's getting to do his thing, and there is at least some kind of direction happening with them. And in the next couple of years, you might actually see a Man United team being back again, Harry.
Yeah, absolutely. You might see that indeed. Thank you very much. Let's move then to the next game. Derby, Villa and Wolves. Villa win 1-0. Mark, I'll stick with you. You mentioned earlier you think Wolves, down and out, they're relegated. Is there any situation that could change, or your opinion could change on them? Do you not think, is it a case of Rob Edwards isn't the man, or Wolves are just too far behind at this point?
I just think, I think they're too far behind. They've never got over the players that they lost. Cunha is a baller, by the way, and he was massive for them. They've lost him. They've lost other players. I'm shocked by the scoreline. I'm honestly shocked by the scoreline. I would have expected Villa to absolutely batter them. I know it's a derby, but I would have expected a lot higher score. I can't see anything from them, Harry, at all. I think they picked up 2 points, 1 point against you guys, and I don't know who the other one was against. For me, Wolves' biggest challenge for me this year is to break the lowest target of points ever set in the Premier League that we thought we'd never see again. I think that they are sitting on 2 points, aren't they? I've not looked at the Premier League table. I'm pretty sure that they are on 2 points. It's just absolutely horrendous, and even if they change manager, I just do not see enough, mate. I think they're championship bound. I think that's a foregone conclusion, mate.
Yeah, I think it struggles when people that disagree with that. To be honest with you, even if your Wolves get their acting gear, it's going to need an almighty kind of miracle for it to happen. Just not because of where Wolves are, although they're in a bad place, and although they're, big chunk through the season, it's more the fact that the competition's stronger this year, and they just don't even look like they're anywhere near getting a result. That's the problem. So yeah, too little, too late. It could be, even if they do turn it around, for Wolves. But I want to speak about Aston Villa. You gone, Mark?
No, I was just going to say, Harry, do you know what? You're absolutely right with what you're saying about the competition. And it's just this season, the teams that have come up are like, they are strong. So you may get a surprise from a Burnley where Burnley actually stay up. And I'm not saying they're going to set the world alight, maybe 16th in the league or something like that. But it is possible. And I think the 40-point bracket will definitely be the barrier to stay up. And after 13 games, if you've got 1/3 of a season and you've got 2 points, where are you going to find the other 38 points from? It's just, I mean, right now they're on course for 6 points at the end of the season. It's that bad. I mean, they do have to play Tottenham again. I do have to put a joke in there, so they might get a point there. But sorry, guys. But no, all seriousness, you're absolutely right. The competition in the Premier League is up and down. The whole entire league is a lot greater this season, and I see no way, Harry. This is Southampton last season for me.
Oh. Have we lost you, Mark?
Oh, no, I stopped.
I stopped. Sorry, you just glitched on my screen. That's all. Thank you.
Oh, right. Sorry, I do apologise.
Oh, that's okay. Probably my end, but you just froze up. So I don't want to interrupt you. Thank you very much. This comment makes me laugh. Francie says, I read this somewhere and it's absolutely killed me. Yeah, me too. He says, December and Wolves have less points than a triangle. That's very, very good. It is, I think that's funny. Simple things like that. They are quite classy. But Lewis, can I ask you about Aston Villa? Because they are a team in form, not the only team in form, but they are in a good patch of form, and that includes in the Europa League, but also in the Premier League. How far can they go in terms of what they can achieve? Because not long ago, they were staring down the barrel of being in a relegation scrap. Just how things change really quickly.
Things can always change quickly. I think they should aim for top four. It's what they have aimed for previously, and it's what they should aim for now. It's about, they've struggled a lot, Aston Villa, in terms of the summer. We saw they are facing very difficult financial issues with the wage bill, and with the upcoming Premier League rule changes with the finances, they are going to be in even more trouble. So it's one of those where I think they just really need to focus on getting a top four finish and take the money that can come from it, and they use that to build upon the success that they would have achieved this season. They're obviously in the Europa League at the moment. Who knows where that could go? Anything can really happen. But I think their main thing is they just need to continue on the form. They've only lost 3 games this season. That's really, really good so far. They've had less losses than City. So if they can keep going, they keep pushing, they'll definitely get a top 4. Even though it is close, they've got the squad capability to do it. They just need to have maybe a little bit backing in January and keep winning games like these. I personally believe that Wolves are almost unlucky to not come away with a point. If you actually look at the performance, I think they are quite unlucky. I think some could even say they could have got a win. Very, very unlucky. And I think Villa's goal was brilliant, not to take away from it. But that's what you need to do as a side who's fighting for Champions League. You need to win games like this. These are the crucial ones to win. So I think they did really, really well.
100%. Thank you very much. Joseph, can I come to you for our next game, Forest and Brighton? I mean, just talking about teams in form there. We'll start with Brighton. I mean, do you think they've turned a corner? Because they look really strong. And I used to make a joke about Brighton that, they'd win at, the Amex all the time, they'd lose away. Almost like they were just like a purely home-based team, the opposite to like our club Tottenham and very similar to Newcastle. But they're now getting results on the road and they're not really conceding goals and they're scoring more than ever. So I personally think they've turned the corner, but I'm going to ask you if you think they have.
I mean, it's Brighton have always been quite a consistent side. Again, obviously, another one of those teams that's kind of, you can see their identity in their recruitment and their hierarchy, and it kind of feeds down to the pitch, feeds down from the manager into the pitch. And I mean, they absolutely demolished Forest. 2-0 is quite complimentary of Forest because Brighton were by far and away the better side. They really played well. They looked so impressive in the first half. Forest kind of tried to fight back a little bit, but Brighton, it never felt like they were worried about the game. It felt like they were going to get the win. And obviously getting that final goal right towards the end obviously secured that. But no, I mean, Brighton, they have, again, some really talented footballers in Minter. I think Matt Vifer's come in and been a really solid pickup for them. Just all over the pitch, they've got real, Premier League talent. And again, another team that you don't always know what you're going to get with them, but you always know it's going to be usually a tough game. Whoever they come up against, it's always one of those kind of banana skin type of games where you're just kind of hoping you don't catch them on their best day. But even on a bad day, it's not going to be easy. On the other hand, like with Forest, again, obviously coming in with Sean Dyche, kind of a new regime after Nuno doing well and then Ange kind of falling apart a bit. But he has steadied the ship a little. But you would say, again, one of these games, I mean, they absolutely battered Brighton last year. I think it was 7-0, 7-1, something like that at home. Forest beat Brighton. And to see this game, it was kind of the antithesis of that. Brighton really felt comfortable and it never felt like they actually had to get out of second gear. So, again, Forest being a bit inconsistent, which is maybe what I expected under Sean Dyche, and Brighton just kind of picking up points the way they do, always being a comfortable Premier League side. Again, if they want to kind of push on and try and challenge for Europe once again, they are going to need to be more consistent and kind of pick up points in a row rather than just kind of getting a win here, then dropping points there, then getting a draw there. They need to become a bit more consistent in their play. But Brighton will be happy with the result. Forest, again, just trying to kind of steady the ship a bit after the kind of fall off they had with Ange.
100%. Thank you, Joseph. Steadying the ship is, I think, a phrase that's been used a lot by Forest, but I think it's absolutely right to use because they've been through a lot of different managers and different styles. It must be, I mean, I'm the last person, by the way, to defend players. They have it easy in lots of ways, but, to have the manager with so many different styles cannot be helpful, surely. I'm going to come to you, Lewis. So, Forest, 16th in the table. They have improved, no doubt, with Sean Dyche coming in. Do you think, they can pull away even from that relegation zone?
I think they could. It will be tough, of course, because it's one of those where if you look at the bottom of the table at the moment between 14th and 18th, it's that 7-point gap, which for the lower sides who are fighting for those positions, a bit like Forest, West Ham, Leeds, they are all fighting for, survival. But as we've seen with Fulham, just 2 wins in a row can get you out of that slum. And suddenly, Fulham now will be thinking, we're only 5 points off 5th and we're 15th. You suddenly don't look towards the relegation zone anymore. You look upwards. So I think if Forest were to get a few results in a row and maybe win their next 2 and some other results around them don't go very well, I know one of the games against Everton, that will be taking points off Everton, suddenly everyone will put them in contention for maybe European talks again. So it does go to show how close it can be and how just 1 or 2 match weeks after what we say now could be the completely irrelevant or completely true. They definitely have the ability to kick on and get going, but it's a question of, they beat Leeds 3-1, they beat Liverpool 3-0, they beat Malmo 3-0, and then they lose 2-0 to Brighton. How do you score 9 in 3 and then you can't score against Brighton? It goes to show that inconsistency is not going to get them out of where they are now. But for example, they've got Wolves and Everton next. If they picked up points in both of those, their trajectory could be looking upwards. So it's sort of a toss of a coin at the moment.
I think you put that across nicely, Lewis. I think you really did. Thank you. I feel the same as you. Thank you. Mark, can I get your thoughts on this game before we move on? Do you agree with Joseph that maybe that scoreline is actually quite kind to Forest and really, never really in the game?
I don't know, because when I was watching the Sunderland Bournemouth game, I actually flipped over to this one, and I actually thought that I thought Forest were patches, especially starting the game. I thought that like there was something there. However, the inconsistency is with them. I don't know, Harry. It's so difficult. I mean, it was a typical Sean Dyche team. It really, really is, and I personally can't see Forest getting up the mess that they're currently in. I think that they could be threatened with going down this season. 100%. They've got some brilliant players in there, and Morgan Gibbs White. I felt he had a really good game. Well, he had a half decent, pretty good game.
Yeah.
Had some opportunities, could have really got Forest in. Well, it was 1-0 Brighton, and he skied it, but he was screaming at a lot of the players around him. Like, he just looks like a man in absolute frustration for me during the game, where he was just so unhappy with all his teammates and what they were doing, not passing the ball, etc. Correctly. And yeah, Forest, they're just so difficult. They have the absolute opportunity. They have the capability. I think that's the word, capability of actually springing, because there is quality there, and they do have a lot of depth within their side. But there just seems to be something that is like way off with them. Absolutely, I mean, absolute way off. To go from Nuno to where they are now is just. It's almost like self-destruct for me, Harry. It's almost self-destruct. They were having problems under Nuno at the end, but it just seems absolutely self-destruct what that football club's doing. So to answer the question on the game, I agree with Joseph. I don't think that 2-0 really did flatter Brighton, but there was opportunities for Forest in the game to be able to get something out of it, and it just they're very just so inconsistent, and something is completely not right at that football club.
The joys of Marinakis.
Yeah, 100%. I was trying not to swear by using his name. I do not like him at all.
No, not the way. That's fair to say. But next game then, West Ham, Liverpool. You know I'm coming to. Lewis, I'm coming to you first. Unfortunately for you, is a defeat. What did you make of the performance? And also before the game, did you feel confident based on Liverpool's form recently, which is, just collapsed?
I will have to bite my lip about talking this game a lot. But the first thing that I have to mention is nothing to do with the performance, and the fact that before the game we found out that Billy Bonds unfortunately passed away, which was a horrible thing. And I'm sure that on the day, even though it can be one of those things to give you motivation, I think it also can destroy you. And I think a lot of fans walking into the stadium, we wanted the squad to turn up for him, but I know a lot of people that I was speaking to at the game almost didn't attend the game because of his passing, because it just, it was so emotional to them. But to take it back to the performance, I think overall, on paper, it doesn't look very good from a West Ham perspective. Liverpool finally, winning again. They got their breakthrough. Isak scored his goal. And, for the first half, they looked lackluster. I was at the game, and I just thought, whilst watching, this Liverpool team is not a title-winning team. They are lacking in so many areas somehow, and they are so inconsistent. And I thought going into the game, I was saying to a few people, I said at half-time when it was 0-0, it was going to be one goal. Whoever got the first goal was going to win it, because it was a classic. Liverpool went 1-0 up, and then they defended. I just thought that as the reigning champions and a team who was, believed to be fighting for the title this year, to go 1-0 up against West Ham and sit back and defend is quite astonishing, to be honest. I wouldn't think that against a team like us. We've been really struggling this season, and to see a team actually defend against us and be worried was quite surprising. But the entire of the second half was boiled over. It was just completely horrible. The referee, well, sort of everything went wrong. Obviously, we'll have the Paqueta conversation as well. I'll do that now. And what happened with the whole Paqueta situation was, in my eyes, it's been taken out of context quite a lot. I think his response on Twitter or X wasn't the correct response to have. And I still think that adrenaline he had during the match, he took to social media, which wasn't the smartest of choices to make for sure. Definitely wasn't. But the other problem was, if we look at the game as a whole, just forget about the red card for a second. If we just look at the game, I'm not sure if any of you two watched the game, but there were so many poor decisions across the whole match. So many poor decisions. I remember one of the chances with Juve running down the wing, Konate completely ignoring the ball and taking Juve out. No foul. I remember one of Magaza going in. Liverpool, Gravenberch, I think it was through on goal, and Magaza has absolutely taken him out. He's not won any of the ball. And our players stopped playing because we thought it was a foul. Referee just waves on. And to make matters worse, Magaza makes a brilliant tackle, an absolutely phenomenal tackle. You know, diving in, what the fans want to see, and he gets a yellow card for it, and he's won the ball 100%. And that's when we lead to the problem of Paqueta. His first booking he was booked for something that he shouldn't have been booked for. They missed the identity of the player. He didn't make the tackle. When he complained about it, he received a booking for it. Which,
are you sure that was what the yellow card? Because I thought he was just getting a yellow card for complaining, and then he got another yellow card for complaining.
I thought it was as well. I thought it was 2 yellow cards for dissent.
It was 2 yellow cards for dissent, but it was where initially Paqueta thought he had been booked for tackling, bringing the player down, and probably, obviously, I can't sit here and say what he said to the referee, but considering Paqueta and the way he has been, I assume it was probably something quite theatrical, which was warranted of a yellow. And from that point onwards, his head was gone. His head was completely gone, and it was a really, really silly error. As a West Ham fan, I was really sad to see that, because at that point we were 1-0 down and anything could happen. We didn't have a shot on target all game, but we had a few chances here and there where I thought we could have done better here. And if we had 11 men on the pitch, it would have been unlikely, and we probably would have lost 1-0, but we could have maybe nicked a goal. But he continued to press the referee. People tried to drag him away. I remember a lot of people criticising Bowen for not dragging him away, and I personally don't believe Bowen does enough as captain to, prevent there being another yellow. But he was dragged away to the other side of the pitch and just ran back.
Yeah,
he still just ran back.
As a neutral watching this game, it was a game of quite little quality. There wasn't a lot from either side. And like you said, I agree with you completely. Liverpool just do not look the sorts. They do not look like the team that won the league last year. Obviously, the one moment of quality came from Isaac with a great finish, first time into the bottom corner. But again, for me, just the game ended after that Paqueta got sent off. And to be fair, even then, Bowen had a really good chance towards the end of the game to almost draw it level. But just, I couldn't believe what Paqueta was doing. As much as I think he's an unbelievable footballer on his day, just stupid situation to put your team in when you're 1-0 down to a team that, on paper is better than you. But in this moment, there was little to put between the two sides. And he's one of the talismans. He's one of the guys that can get you back into that game. And you just need him to keep his head and to keep playing and to possibly get you back in that game. Because it was there that Liverpool have been very shaky at the back this season. And it was clear that there was definitely chances in the game for you. So it was so disappointing to see him kind of just throw the game away from a West Ham point of view, to really just kind of and for something so needless. If it was a challenge and he was unhappy with it, fair enough. But from what I was seeing on TV, it looked like 2 moments of dissent where he was annoyed he got a yellow card. But at that point, just, you know, realize the situation of the game. You don't need other players to pull you away. You should be able to realize what situation you're in to be able to stop that from happening and stop escalating it further. And that's where maybe it's the South American in him. I don't know, but he ruined the game for West Ham, and it was a shame because there was definitely something to take there for him. So
100%. And see when West Ham got rid of David Moyes, that was meant to be the point of yous going, like, stepping up. Every West Ham fan wanted it. Like, do you not feel that, like, that decision to get rid of that manager has been absolutely catastrophic for your football club?
I personally don't believe it was the wrong decision at the time, because I know we can look in hindsight and say we had Lopetegui, which was a disaster. We had Potter, which was a disaster. Now we got, I personally believe, a phenomenal manager in Nuno. But the problem that a lot of people mention, yes, we had a few European campaigns under David Moyes. Yes, it was a brilliant time. We had a great squad. Everything was looking up. But we have to remember some of the results we faced that season. Off the top of my head, we lost. We conceded 5 to Fulham. We conceded 5 to Crystal Palace. We conceded 6 to Arsenal. We conceded 5 to Man City. There were too many results of poor quality, and I think it wasn't just the fans that wanted that chapter to end. I think it was also David Moyes. I think he did sort of not take the club as far as they possibly could, because I personally thought that I was under the impression that when we got rid of David Moyes, we had no money, and when we brought in Lopetegui, we spent an absolute fortune. I would have liked to have seen Moyes stay that season, and we would have given Moyes that money to try and, you know, help the squad that he would have had. But towards the end, it all came crashing down. We had won. This is really testing the memory off the top of my head, and I really don't want to get this wrong. But I think from the new year to the end of the season, we had won 3 matches, which was really, really poor, because we had such a good start to the season, and it looked a lot better than it was. But we were on form. We were the 19th best team in the Prem, which goes to show we would have been relegation candidates had the second half of the season been like the first.
It just means it just looks to me that sorry, Harry, it was just the last thing. It just seems that to me that everything West Ham's actually is just absolutely wrong. And you're right what you said about Nuno. I think Nuno is an unbelievable manager. I really, really do rate him. And given time, maybe we'll turn it around. But even things like the sale of Kudus to Tottenham, and even for the money that you got for him, it's almost like brown envelopes are going under the table.
I think yes, but I think at the point of time we didn't have a choice. We had a player who was desperate to leave, and the only other club that had really been offering for him were Chelsea, in which they were offering players rather than actual funding. And at the time, Potter wanted funding, so we accepted the deal, and that received a lot of criticism. I feel that rivalry has been numbed down due to our manager or the owners or whatever we decided to sell to Spurs. I mean, we had Graham Potter wishing Tottenham well in a European final, where that didn't go very well for West Ham fans at all. I mean, how can you sit there and credit one of your biggest rivals and hope they win? No one in West Ham wanted them to win. Why would that? Why? Everything's just a calamity, and we sort of. I believe Nuno's here to steady the ship and hopefully just guide us out of relegation, and maybe finishing mid-table would be a very successful season in my book.
Yeah. Do you know what? I've got the very last point I will say on West Ham. You done me a turn by giving me one of the best midfielders, if not the best midfielder in the world. I've got a couple of brilliant kids there that will come in at West Ham and do a really good turn for you. Ethan and Max Diamond, honestly, they are world class, bro. I'm being serious. Chap our door, we roll you a turn.
Great stuff. Thank you very much. And didn't you actually mention that about Graham Potter? I met him in Spurs Premium once, and he's been seen in there a couple of times by myself. Once I did catch him, once I didn't. So maybe it's a little bit of a soft spot for Spurs to do that on 2 occasions. And it both when he was out of job, to be fair, but even so, you know, maybe a little bit of a soft spot. But it's interesting you mentioned that. But before we move on from this game, there's a question here. Do you guys believe that Liverpool's season so far is down to bad tactics, or players not being good enough, or not being in form? Lewis, I'm going to give this to you. What do you reckon?
I would say, I think the basic answer would be it's a combination of both. But I do believe it is also down to tactics, because what I saw, I have watched quite a bit of Liverpool this season, but what I saw against West Ham, I have never seen a team do to us. To go to the London Stadium and get a 1-0 lead against struggling West Ham this season, and it's their method of securing victory, is shocking to me. I mean, they only won 2-0 because, you know, Piquet had been sent off and everyone had already felt like the players had already gone home at that point. So on another day, it probably would have been 1-0 Liverpool. And it goes to show how far they've fallen.
I disagree 100% with that.
Oh, go on. Go for it.
I'm going to, this is me sticking up for Liverpool. Pre-season, draw to dice, and that whole squad are in trauma. They're having to go to a funeral of one of their brothers, one of their teammates, and actually try and deal with that. Now, they're professionals, and we can say that they're not human beings. I'm sure some people will, and that's up to them. They then miss out on half of their pre-season due to that very thing. I spoke to Liverpool fans. There was no pre-season done whatsoever. Then they bring in a lot of signings. There was a major turnover at Liverpool, and you had top signings like Isak went on strike, didn't come in to Liverpool match fit at all. After, like, because he went obviously on strike. You then had Wirtz come in, that's not hit the ground running. Van Dijk looks like half of the player that he currently was, obviously struggling with it. Scotland qualified for the World Cup. Now, that should have been the happiest day ever, and I mentioned this for a reason. Should have been the happiest day ever. Andy Robertson gets interviewed straight after that game, and the first thing he said was, Jota has been in my head the whole entire day. This moment in time, I think the first few games, Liverpool won by the odd goal. They got a wonder free kick against Arsenal to win the game, probably 0-0 all over it. They had one of their kids score a 94th minute winner or 95th minute winner against Newcastle away. I think it was adrenaline and probably trying to carry that over the line. I simply think Liverpool are in trauma at this moment in time. And I think it's natural to be in trauma when you've went through something like what that football club's done. So I don't blame Slot at all. He walked the Premier League last season. I could give context for why Arsenal didn't challenge, but he walked it. It was won by April, if not beforehand. He's not a bad manager. There is some brilliant players there. But this football club are in trauma, Harry. And so for me, it's nothing to do with tactics, nothing to do with the rest. It's just going to take them time to re-go again, in my opinion. And that is honestly a genuine opinion of mine.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Then the final game, then Gameweek 13. Then we're going to get into Gameweek 14. We're just going to give our score predictions for that. But the last game to review is Chelsea and Arsenal, which ended 1-1. Mark, I've got to start with you. So you're giving it the big talk, and you can beat 10 men Chelsea. But no, what did you think of the game, honestly?
Do you know what? I'm going to start with giving some credit to Chelsea. Chelsea really came at Arsenal. They had a game plan. I thought 11 against 11. Chelsea were really giving it to Arsenal, and they looked really decent, and probably as a whole could look at. They may feel hard done by that they've not won the game. That is where it stops for me. I don't like that. Any other compliments are out the window. Caicedo could have broke Mourinho's ankle. It was a Stonewall red card. The referee played on and actually had to be reminded by VAR just to give him a yellow card so they had time to display it to get for the red. Two teams this season have drawn the Arsenal, and both have something in common, and that's Chelsea and Sunderland. Both of them have went in there with physicality. There's three ways that you can play Arsenal. You can play Arsenal like a Champions League team, and you'll be absolutely destroyed. We've scored 15 goals, conceded 1, top of the league. You can play us like Wales. I'm going to say Wales, just so I'm not offending anyone.
I'm about to say you can say Spurs because we played that game scared.
Yeah. Well, no, I think Spurs kind of opened up the Arsenal, so I would use you as a third example. The first example. You could play us like a real side where it's a dirty slow block, and we've got an answer for that. The third way to play Arsenal is physicality, and physicality is 1,000,000% what Chelsea brought. They couldn't play us all. Didn't want to do the low block against us because, quite frankly, we would have had corner set pieces and we would have scored against them and found a way past it. They wouldn't open up against us because they can't play Arsenal football. They're really not as good as what they actually think they are. So they had to be physical. And I don't know if you guys watched, there's a clip that's circling at the moment where Enzo, and I'm trying not to swear on Harry's channel, actually boots Madueke nowhere near the ball and nearly puts him in the stand, and him and Cucurella turn around and scream in their ex-teammate's face that it was the best thing in the world. Take that with some other words getting put beside it. I found Chelsea absolutely disgusting, and what they've actually done and what Enzo's done and what their amazing manager's done has actually enticed something within the Arsenal fan base. So when Chelsea come to the Emirates and have to play us, this will be flipped right around. We'll have Havertz back at that time. We'll have Gabriel at that time. We will put players up in row Z if we have to, and that will 100% happen. But what it does is it brings an added tension between Chelsea and Arsenal fans. And so Enzo was absolutely out of order. For the rest of the game, Harry, we looked leggy. I'm not sure why. It was a hard week of games that we had with Tottenham, Bayern, and then obviously Chelsea away. So maybe there was a bit in there. I can't make excuse because we've got one of the best squads in the Premier League, if not the best. So that shouldn't have been it. We did play 24 hours after Chelsea. Would that be a reason? I'm not sure. I think the main thing that I pulled out of it is with two of our centre backs being out of the game, that I kind of felt the team itself wanted to protect them a bit more than what they would if it was Saliba and Gabriel, if that makes sense. Losing the two is massive for any team. And I felt there was a nervousness around the team a bit. But at the same time, Anthony Taylor had actually given Arsenal that many yellow cards. You would think that we were the ones that were being physical in the first half, that our whole backline were basically on yellow cards. So maybe that could have been part of the nerves as well. But in a whole, it was a great week for Arsenal. I'll take the point against Chelsea. They achieved absolutely nothing. They're 6 points still behind Arsenal. Zero chance of catching Arsenal. And Enzo, I never wish injuries on players, but I pray every day that you get an ACL. You disgusting human being. Thank you, Harry.
That's a way to end 1.5. But okay, thank you, Mark. Joseph, what did you make of the We Hate Tottenham More derby?
Well, yeah, actually, I was actually going to mention that because that's usually what it is. But you know what? There was actually some bite in this game. Which
There
I
was
liked.
fight, wasn't there? To be fair, it didn't feel like that.
Well, it was great to see because it has felt like that for a long time because Tottenham had got a bit better than Arsenal for a while, and it just felt like Chelsea and Arsenal were like these lovers that hated Tottenham. But you know what? It was actually a really good game to watch. Chelsea looked on top for the first half of that game, and then Caicedo, I don't know what happened to him. He did feel like he was kind of a headless chicken throughout that game. I don't know why he was. I think he wanted to leave such an imprint on the game so badly that he ended up going over the top. And completely agree with Mark. It was 100% a red card. It was just a really entertaining game, though. I was worried that after that red card, Arsenal would start to dominate the game and it would kind of only go one way. But that is definitely not what happened. I thought it was a very even game of football. And I thought Chelsea well deserved the point. Again, I think Arsenal will still be the steady favourites for the league, and I think they've been the most consistent team in the league so far. But it was good to see somebody really give them a game, and especially this made me slightly unhappy with the Tottenham when we played Arsenal, because we sat back and we were so scared of what Arsenal would do to us that we weren't trying to do anything ourselves, and we saw Chelsea really go at Arsenal, really try and exploit them, try and be physical, like Mark said. And it's shown that Arsenal aren't comfortable with that. I mean, Sunderland did it to them. They tried to go at them and tried to give them a hard time. And doing that is obviously a way of trying to disrupt how they can play. We haven't seen it enough from many teams. And again, that most, Arsenal will play teams off the pitch sometimes, but seeing Chelsea do that with even 10 men, it shows that you can get at this Arsenal team. Now, it's a shame that I don't believe any other Premier League team is going to be able to capitalise on that, on Arsenal possibly tripping up in different moments. But it's still good to see. It was an entertaining game to watch as a neutral. And I think it was a really impressive game from Chelsea. I think they should take a lot of positives from it. I think for Arsenal, yeah, you get away with it in a sense in terms of getting a 1-1 draw in a game that you after there's 10 men, you should really feel like you could go on and win that. But Chelsea didn't give them that opportunity. So very entertaining to watch. And we just got to hope that Arsenal can face more games like that and maybe not have such an easy ride to the title.
Please don't. Please don't.
Please don't. He's back. Thank you very much, Joseph, for that. Let's move into Game Week 14. We're just going to go around the panel and get your score predictions. If you want to give your mini thoughts, that's fine. Maybe choose a few that you feel about. If it's about your club, by all means, I'll give you thoughts before that. But Bournemouth versus Everton. Joseph, we kick it off with you. What's your score prediction?
I'll go 2-1 Bournemouth. I think, again, it's one of those games where you don't really know exactly what will happen, but I would say Bournemouth at home, Everton coming off quite a poor loss. They will want to try and bounce back, but I think Bournemouth might be a bit too much for them.
Okay, thank you very much, Joseph. Lewis, what do you reckon?
I'm going to go back to winning ways for Bournemouth, and I'm going to go 2-0.
Oh, good stuff. Mark, are you there? If you are,
Yeah, I'm mate. I'm going to go 2-0 as well. I'm going to agree with Lewis. I think that the Bournemouth, I feel, hard done by out of that game. So, yeah, there'll be a bounce back on this.
Okay, we're going for Bournemouth result then. Thank you. Fulham then against Man City. Can Fulham build on that win they got against Tottenham? And Man City, they want to build on their win against Leeds. They left it late though. Joseph, will come back round to you. What do you think the score will be? Fulham versus Man City.
Well, it kicks off in about half an hour. I'll go with Manchester City to win 3-1. So, although I have been impressed with Fulham the last couple of weeks, I still haven't seen enough from them to feel that they could beat a fully firing Manchester City side. So I'm going to go for City win. Okay.
Mark?
I think it'll be a draw. Craven Cottage is a horrible place to go. I never enjoy it for Arsenal. Thankfully, we came out of it, but it's a very, very difficult place to go. And Man City, is Pep going to make 10 changes again? He seems to be on a madness at this moment in time. So I'll go for a 1-1 on this.
Oh, okay, thank you. Fulham fan Barney in the chat says the home form is very good and he's been brave. He said tough, tight game this and been brave. 2-2. He's gone as a Fulham fan back inside to get a draw. Lewis, what do you think the score will be?
I actually have my little notepad here where I've wrote down what I think will be the scores for all games, and I
Yeah?
put 1-1 as well. Actually, I think Fulham will get a draw. I don't know why. I just think it's a very tough place to go to, as mentioned. So I think they'll get a point.
Good stuff. Thank you very much. Newcastle against Tottenham. Then I'm going to start with you, Joseph.
Yeah, well, the lineup's just come out, and there's no
How's that?
Van de Ven. He's on the bench.
What?
Xavi's on the bench. Yeah,
Frank,
let's go 4-0 Newcastle.
Actually,
Yeah, actually.
yeah. That's a
I
4-1.
don't have any belief in this Tottenham side. Johnson, Kudus, and Colomwani, Sarr, Benton, Core, and Bergvall behind them. Danzo at the back.
Why would Van de Ven be on the bench?
I don't know, but he is. So yeah, I don't think Frank knows what to do, and yeah, I can't see Tottenham getting any. We've been battered by Newcastle the last couple of times we've been there, except for maybe last year. I think we had a quite close game, but I mean we lost 2-0 to them a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, just really poor. I can't see Tottenham getting a win, and yeah, that lineup just proves that he doesn't really want to win it. To be honest, I can't believe that Xavi's still on the bench. I don't get it.
No, I'm a bit concerned that I'm in defender Frank all week, but Simmons, I want to see him start. At the same time, he's at the moment a little bit lightweight, but at the same time, you're not going to develop strength or get used to your team, are you, if you sat on the bench all the time? So that'd be
The one thing we're struggling with is creativity, and Sarr, Bergvall, and Bentancur does not scream creativity. Xavi Simmons is the only creative player we really have available to us right now. With Maddison being out, and you're refusing to start him. I understand he has struggled to adapt, but he's not going to adapt to the Premier League if you don't play him. So, yeah, just really poor lineup, and yeah, I can see Newcastle rolling us over, to be honest.
Absolutely. I do feel the same. I said 4-1. I mean, that lineup hasn't given me too much confidence. I haven't seen the rest of it, but just seen a little bit of it. Lewis, what do you think in this game? I mean, this is the later game tonight.
I did say 1-0 before seeing the lineups, but now we've seen the lineups, I'm going to say 2-0. I think missing Van de Ven, I think it'll be 2-0.
Love that. Thank you, Mark.
I can't believe that I'm like an Arsenal fan and I'm actually ready to say what I'm saying. But Spurs are actually like, they do an absolute madness at times, and they could go away from home and actually get something. I would not be surprised, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I think that you'll play a low block against them, and it's going to be a struggle. And I think that Tottenham are going to come away from this game 1-0.
Okay.
I honestly do. Spurs are up and down. Frank is an amazing manager, and I honestly, I think he is an absolute brilliant manager, and he will get it right. For me, I just think that this is going to be the ugliest low block that you've ever seen, and Tottenham will score. And when you guys go forward, you can actually do something. So, yeah, 1-0 Spurs.
You haven't been watching enough Tottenham, no, we can't.
Believe me, I have been watching you guys. I have been watching you. Just have a bit of faith in your club, bro.
Okay, I'll try.
We try. We are trying hard already. Mark, I'll come back to you. Arsenal versus Brentford. I mean, according to your logic tonight, I mean, it's not even up for consideration. But what do you think the score will be? And talk us through your thoughts.
Yeah, 3-0 Arsenal. I expect changes within the side. I'm very confident. I don't think Brentford travel very well, and we're back at the Emirates again. And I think it's going to come down to Arteta's cojones, if I may say that, how much he's willing to rotate the side. Will William Saliba be back? It's a knock that he took in training. That's why he missed Chelsea. There is a number of changes that I would like to see. We've got Gyökeres back now. Jesus, which is absolutely fantastic, was on the bench against Chelsea, didn't come on. The squad is really getting back. We've got Odegaard back as well. Nuno's came back. I think the only doubts that we really do have is obviously Gabriel will be out, and the other one is Trossard. So I just think that there's too much there. There's too much in this Arsenal side. It's either the two ways that we will play this game. We either will make the changes that I would make to give the guys a rest, because we're playing every couple of days at the moment. I would either go weaker at the start. And when I say weak, there's not a massive drop off in any position. We have a £50 million right back that doesn't get a game for us at this moment in time in Ben White. Our squad is unbelievable. So we either go weaker and we would have our big guns or the informed players off the bench, or we do the opposite way and we go strong at the beginning, and after 60 minutes take like 5 of them off and put the other guys on to get it. So I am not concerned on this game at all. I do believe that Arsenal will walk away with this at least 3-0.
Okay, 3-0. Thank you again. Appreciate the honesty. Lewis, what do you reckon? Arsenal win, surely?
Yeah, no, nothing crazy here. I've just gone 2-0 Arsenal.
Okay, Joseph?
Yeah, I'll go with I think, 3-0 Arsenal. I think they've just got a bit too much for Brentford, unfortunately. But I don't think Brentford are expecting to go to the Emirates and get anything from the game.
That is very true. They would love a point, I'm sure. Next game then, Brighton and Aston Villa, the two informed sides, to be honest with you. Joseph, will come back to you. I mean, which way is this one? Which way's going to go?
I think if you go off of the last game, you would go with Brighton, because I didn't think Aston Villa were that great against Wolves. Wolves probably could have got something from that game, and it took kind of an outside the box goal, which is what Villa have relied on a lot actually this year, scoring from outside the box. But let's go with a 1-1. I think it'll be a tight game. Brighton looking impressive. It depends what Brighton turns up though. But yeah, we'll go with a draw.
Draw, yeah, I think I feel the same with that. Thank you. Lewis, what do you reckon?
I've gone with 1-0 to Aston Villa.
1-0 to Aston Villa. Brighton losing at home. That is a rare sight. But Villa, their team in form, definitely, if Brighton are. And to give some context with Brighton as well, their last 5 have been really good results. They sit 5th in the table. They have had a really significant, if we include the international break, it would be about 5 or 6 weeks. But they've had, a few games where they've really pushed on. Mark, how do you see this game going?
I think 2-1 Brighton. The reason for it is that I don't think that Villa. I'm just wondering if Villa are probably struggling with squad depth.
Right.
Squad depth. So yeah, I would possibly. I was leaning towards a 1-1. I was going to go with Joseph as well on that, but Brighton are in good form, and I just feel that Villa are just slightly slowing down again, and I can see them dropping points over the next few weeks. So 2-1 Brighton.
Interesting. Thank you. I didn't see that coming. Burnley then against Palace. Is there any chance of a little upset in that? And when I say a little upset, I think Burnley getting a result. Palace, a couple of defeats. Manager's not happy. Could they implode? We've seen this before and it hasn't happened though. Lewis, I'll kick it off with you this time. What do you reckon in terms of the score?
I think Palace will bounce back, and I think they'll get that victory that they've been longing after from recent times. But I do think Burnley will get a goal, so I've gone 3-1 Palace.
3-1 Palace. Yeah, okay, I like that. Thank you. Mark?
I'm going to go 1-1 on this one. I don't think they'll get their victory. Burnley are a very tricky place to go, and I honestly think they'll hold up tight and this will end in a draw.
Good stuff. Joseph?
I'm going to go 2-1 to Palace. I think they've got enough to beat Burnley. I've quite liked Ryan Fleming over the last couple of weeks, though. I think he's been quite impressive for Burnley. But yeah, I think Palace might have a bit too much for him.
Okay, good stuff. Got 2-1 Palace. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Burnley against Palace. Wolves then, Forest. This is interesting because Wolves need a result and Forest look good. Can they get it? I mean, I personally back Forest in this game, but it's not my predictions. Joseph, I'll start with you again. What do you reckon?
I'll give Wolves a win. Try and get them. Try and make it a bit more interesting. Let's go with 2-1 to Wolves.
Okay, Lewis.
I've gone with a 1-1.
1-1. Thank you, Mark.
2-0 Forest.
Oh, proper split across the panel. Okay, love that. Thank you. This is a big one, I think. Leeds and Chelsea. I mean, well, it always is. There might be a little bit of bite to that. I mean, how Leeds would love to get a win for their season. Even if they put Chelsea aside, they'd want to win this game, falling where it is, but also because it's Chelsea, it'll mean quite a bit. And I don't know. Maybe I'm overhyping it, but I think it could be a great game. Joseph, again, I'll start with you. What do you reckon?
I'm going to go 2-0 Chelsea. I don't think Leeds have got... I've not been that impressed with their attack this year so far. And Chelsea, they could be with Cole Palmer back. Obviously, he was on the bench for the Arsenal game. I just think Chelsea have got a lot of quality throughout their squad that they can kind of bring in different moments. So I've been really impressed with Chelsea the last couple of weeks, especially. So I'm going to go with them getting the win at Ellen Road.
Thank you. Mark, who are you backing?
1-0 Leeds. Leeds have been pretty strong at home, and I'm also going to predict an Enzo ACL and during that as well. But yeah, no, Leeds have been strong, and I think that Chelsea just played their cup final.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lewis.
I'm gonna match Joseph, and I'm gonna go 2-0 Chelsea as well. I think it'll be comfortably 2-0.
This one could be good. Liverpool and Sunderland. If it was at the Stadium Light, I mean, I'd be watching this even more. But it is at Anfield. Lewis, I could kick it off with you this time.
I am going to predict 2-2.
2-2.
I think
Nice.
this will be. Yeah, I think this will end up 2-2. I can really see it ending as that.
Thank you, Mark.
I think Liverpool will win it. It's going to be a tight game because Sunderland are they are in form. They're a decent side, very strong side. But I think that the win that Liverpool got, I just think there'll be a bit of confidence in there. I think 2-0. And the Anfield crowd, 2-0 Liverpool.
Okay. Joseph?
I'm going to go 2-2 as well. I really like Sunderland have got fight in them in every game, and Liverpool have not looked like they're going to convincingly win a game for a long time. So 2-2.
Okay, thank you. And then move on to our last game. Mark, I'll start with you. United and West Ham.
Oh, sorry, Lewis. I do apologise, bro. I think Man United, they're up and down. I don't know. I'm starting to wonder if they're under a bit of pressure at home. But yeah, I'm going to say 2-0 Man United on this one. I'm sorry, bro. Just West Ham are just not out at the moment.
I'm saving Lewis to the end deliberately for this one. Mixed it up. Joseph,
Harry, you're on mute.
I'm gonna go 3-1 to Manchester United. I know they've been inconsistent, Manchester United, and to be fair, I have been impressed with Nuno so far at West Ham, but I just think in terms of quality, Manchester United have got a lot more of it than West Ham, and they've been playing a lot better. United. I know that Everton game was a bit of a blip in the road, but I think they are turning a corner slightly. So I'm going to go with United win.
Great stuff. Thank you, Joseph. Lewis, because it's West Ham, give us your thoughts as well as your prediction, please.
These are not thoughts someone wants to hear before they go to an away game. But I believe I'm going to go off no sense here, and I'm going to go with a 2-2 prediction. West Ham and Man United haven't drawn each other in the last 14 meetings. Wow. And I have a feeling that a draw has to happen at some point. So I'm just going to predict a draw, and I'll go with 2-2. And it's also slightly fueled by the fact I have to be positive because it's about my club.
Okay, thank you very much. Mark has got a little tech issue, so he's going to drop off. I'm not sure if he'll come back or not, but we are wrapping up now. So we'll find out about that. And we never know his score prediction. Mark, if you're listening, drop it in the chat. But thank you. I think this wraps up nicely for the Premier League podcast, a long one. So thank you to everyone in the chat that has bared with us, that's popped in, popped back out, whatever they have done, and for contributing as well. Mark just said they're 2-0 Manchester United, so he's back United as well. But Lewis is going for a draw. I'm assuming you take a draw like Lewis. Like if I said to you now, point, move on.
Yes, I would take a draw, but I would prefer a win. Though unlikely.
Well, I'm not surprised.
I have to be, though unlikely, I have to be positive and, hope something can come out of it.
I like it. You're positive and you're honest. But no, thank you. That does wrap us up. Let's go through my wonderful panel tonight and see where you can find them on social media. Firstly, Joseph, thank you so much. First Premier League podcast for a little while, I think, maybe first of the season. Where can people follow you? Of course, regular on the Scarfey Spurs Talk podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Harry. Obviously coming in a bit late, but always here for the channel, and great host as always. So thank you for having me. Great to talk wider, more about the Premier League. I really enjoy that rather than just talking about Tottenham, especially at the moment. It's nice to talk a bit more about some other clubs and go into it all. But thank you for having me. You can find me on X at JosepTHFC. Obviously Spurs fan, mainly put my thoughts across regarding Spurs, but definitely happy to talk everything Premier League, everything European football. I am a Juventus fan as well, so I do do a lot of Italian football. So thank you for having me again, and come on you Spurs. Hopefully we can be surprised tonight and get a result, but we'll wait and see.
I hope you're right, but Juventus you can kind of have as a second club. Spurs, it don't work out.
Well, unfortunately, I've been indoctrinated by my partner because she's a Juventus fan. But unfortunately, they're kind of fallen off the wagon the last couple of years as well. So
they haven't they? Yeah,
hasn't been great watching, but who knows? Maybe something's got to turn my way eventually, and hopefully it will be Tottenham.
It's tough for you, Joseph. England, Spurs, Juventus.
I'm a massive fan of American sports as well, and the teams I follow there are no better. So
oh no,
yeah,
maybe you're cursed.
Maybe, but I will. But thank you for having me.
No worries. Thank you so much for coming on. Lewis, always great to have you on. I think you, the voice of kind of West Ham fans in terms of you put things across really, really well. I think you share fans' concerns, and I always like having you on. You bring passion, honesty, you say how it is and put it across, I think, beautifully. So thank you. Where can people follow you across social media?
Thank you very much for the kind words, Harry. You can follow me on X on LOUIS and VANNN. That's all really. And it's nice to be on the pod. I've been on the last few weeks and hopefully many more to come.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. You're more than welcome on any time. And Mark has had to jump because of technical issues, but I want to say a big thank you to Mark as well, Arsenal fan, for coming on. He's got his new podcast, The Ashburton Grove. Make sure to check that out on all socials such as YouTube, and check Mark out as well. So that's going very well for him. And today interviewed AFTV, so huge interview for him. So hopefully that will do really well. And we thank him again for coming on with his technical issues though at the end. But no, like I said, thank you to everyone that's listened just in time before the next game week. So literally we've got 9 minutes until game week 14. So we've done it just in time, squeaky bum time, as they say. But thank you very much for listening. Really do appreciate it. And come back every Tuesday and Thursday night for the Scarfey Talks Premier League podcast. But for now, thank you very, very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Like a song, I'm right